You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi guys, and thanks for coming back again to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. My deepest apologies for not getting a show on for about a week. We've done about 160 miles in the last 10 days of uninterrupted walking up until last Friday. So this week I'm going to split the shows into two to make them slightly more manageable, and each one will be of a shorter length. The first one will go out as soon as I've done it, and then the second one will follow hopefully a couple of hours later. One bit of news is that Sawyer have taken up their option to extend their support for the show. So first, thanks for that, and second, let's hear from them.
When I hit the trail in 2014, I soon discovered that I'd come with the wrong water filter. Everybody else had a Sawyer squeeze. Eventually I bought a squeeze and I loved it. I'm going again this year, and top of my list of things to buy was the new micro squeeze filter by Sawyer. Like all Sawyer stuff, it just works. You can filter up to 100,000 gallons, and their full-size squeeze filter comes with a lifetime warranty. Last year, believe it or not, more than 4 million people got clean water through a Sawyer water filter. But if you think that Sawyer is just about water filters, you could not be more wrong. Nope, they supply everything to protect you, both in the backcountry and the backyard. Protect your gear and clothes as I did with their permethrin fabric treatment, which is 100% odorless after drying. With all the ticks and bugs around, this is an absolute must. They also provide sunscreens and first aid products. Find out more by visiting Sawyer.com.
As you can imagine, I was absolutely delighted when Sawyer took up their option, and so I thank them very much for that. When we last spoke, it was at the end, I think, of Sunday. Yes, it was. I just watched the golf, and we were having dinner and I think a drink with Jason and Sam, and or Indiana Jay and Sam, his girlfriend Sam. And I'm going to pick it up from there, really, the next morning, which will be day number 84. Day 84, Skyland Resort, which is mile 934.1, to Elk Wallow Wayside, mile 952.4 and 18.3 miles day. That morning, the Monday morning, we said goodbye to Jason and Sam at Skyland. We now have a new trail family with Ugg back at Trail Days. So it's me, Trigger, Cushy Life, and now Dodger Dog, or Christina. She's been with us for a few days now. We're getting used to her quirky ways. She is hilariously funny, and she's as sharp as a tack, I tell you. She really is. We love having her around. This was a kind of a day where we were heading towards Thornton Gap. One of my listeners, a guy called Hugh Ickrath, had contacted me saying he'd like to give us some trail magic at Thornton Gap. And so we were heading that way. And on the way, we took in Mary's Rock. It's a great little side trail. It's only about 0.2, 0.3 miles up a Blue Blaze trail. Fantastic view and some beautiful pictures. And we saw Thornton Gap in the distance, so we knew where we were going. There's a lot of switchbacks on the way down, and quite rocky as well. And when we got down the bottom, it was funny actually. Hugh he said he'd be in the parking lot, had put up a sign that said "Mighty Blue, Trail Magic this way," and I thought to myself, "Oh no, please don't let it just be for me." But no, he what he'd actually done, which was very charming of him, he knew who I was going to be with. He bought us 4 great sub sandwiches, but for everybody else, he had drinks, he had beers, he had some soft drinks and some chips as well. It was slightly embarrassing just for us to have the 4 sandwiches. Fortunately, he gave them to us when no one else was around, and then a couple of other people turned up, and Cushy kindly shared half of hers, and I think Christina shared half of hers as well. but Trigger and I ate all of ours, to be honest with you. But what a nice thing to do again. I mean, it's the kindnesses of these people is just amazing to me. He'd driven about 40 odd miles and he wants to hike the Appalachian Trail and he's got it in his future. And he was just pleased to come out and talk to us and chat about the trail, and we engaged him, he engaged us, and we really enjoyed spending some time with him. Excellent terrain as we headed off again. We got to Elk Wallow Wayside. Now, and it was about 4 or 5 o'clock or something like that, and I'm not quite sure whether we were supposed to do this at all, but we didn't really know where we were going to camp. We thought we'd kind of stealth camp a little bit further on, but there's a camp store. Went in there, got a few drinks of different sorts. I think we had a beer, just sat around and that. And we knew there was picnic grounds further into the trees. I don't think there was a sign that we couldn't camp there, but as it got darker, or it got later rather, sometime about 6:30, most people had gone. So we just headed into the picnic grounds and set up our tents there. There was tons of room. There was a rest room there. And we were very comfortable getting into our tents there. Nobody said anything to us. I can't tell you whether we should have done it or not. I suspect we possibly shouldn't have done. But we were very quiet and very respectful of the place. We never left any mess at all behind. And so we camped at the picnic ground that night. In fact, Dodger and I were one side of a set of trees, and Cushy and Trigger and a couple of other people we knew there were the other side of a set of trees. So we settled down and I hung my food and Dodger's food. And in the middle of the night, I heard this call, Mighty Blue, Mighty Blue! And I thought, oh my God, she was nervous that somebody was outside, and so she called my name. And when I didn't answer the first time, she panicked. But it was all okay. No problems in the middle of the night. Our food was hung. We weren't disturbed by bears, and I heard nothing outside at all. But that was the end of day number 84. Day 85. Elk Wallow Wayside, mile 952.4, to US Route 522, Front Royal, mile 971.5 and 19.1 mile day. We knew we had to get some long miles in. Cushy had formed a plan to get to Harpers Ferry by Friday evening, so you may need to pay attention here. We needed some big miles. She wanted to get to Harpers Ferry. She was leaving for the weekend to go to her daughter's graduation, so we did notice this about Cushy. She started disengaging a little bit from the trail. She was caught between this thing of, she knew she was going to meet up with her family, and obviously she was missing her family, and yet she still loves the trail. But she admitted she started to get a little bit disengaged with the trail. But she had this plan. She wanted to get into Harpers Ferry to get that done. So we all went along with it. It all suited us, really. We, as many miles as I can get in, frankly, the better. And I definitely walk a whole lot better, or hike a whole lot better with this group. So I was very happy to play along with it. We set our alarms for 4:30, and eventually we got ready to leave. Remember that place, Elk Wallow Wayside, at 6:07. And after no incidents in the night, despite Dodger Dogs calling my name out in the night, we set off at, say, 6:07. And because we needed these big miles, I was slightly dubious because I was going to be picking up some new shoes that night. Just thought, I think I can explain this to you. Oboe's boots, which I've been using for some time now, have this kind of deal where if you register your boots and you're through hiking for the year, they'll give you 2 replacements, which is such a bargain, let me tell you. And mine have started to wear, they were quite worn actually before I even started the trail. So I've done nearly 1,000 miles on those old boots, but I needed some new ones, and there was a hole in the side and all that sort of stuff, normal wear and tear you'd expect on boots. So I was dubious because new shoes is always a concern to me, wearing in new shoes. But I was going to be picking them up that night. And in this was the last day I was going to have on my old boots. So the 19.1 miles wasn't going to be too much of a problem, but it was those miles we were going to be doing on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday that I was getting a bit concerned about. Or actually on Thursday and Friday, I'm sorry. There was we had a steady uphill, and then about 10 miles downhill into the front row road crossing. And so for a 19-mile day, I mean, looking at the profile, if you look at it on any of the apps you can use, it looks relatively straightforward. And people say it's a downhill into front row road crossing. Well, 10 miles downhill is never always downhill. There's always uphills within it. And those profiles are an indication really of where you're going to be. But there's always climbs, and you just have to get used to that sort of thing. So when I say it's easy, none of this is ever easy. We always get the pain of the uphills and the pain of the downhills on your knees. And now, because I've still got foot pain, I keep getting this foot pain, I've been taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen most days, 2 for breakfast and 2 for lunch, which was really my plan when I was hiking the AT in 2014. So it's the same sort of, I'm doing the same sort of stuff, you know. We got to the AT road crossing at Front Royal, and we waited for Enterprise cars. Because Cushy was going to Ohio, she found out the cost of a week's hire was the same as the cost of a 4 days car hire. So she decided she was going to help us with these miles by slack packing us in a way that was quite interesting, and we'll see how that works out in a minute. And the idea was that certainly on the first day, Cushy and Dodger were going to drop Trigger and I at the southbound part of that day's hike. They were then going to drive to the northbound part of the hike. They were going to hike southbound while we were hiking northbound. We'd obviously cross in the middle. We'd transfer car keys, and I would then get to the northbound part of the hike, drive back south and pick them up. It could have worked. It did work really well, actually, but it didn't work out quite as we'd exactly planned. But this was a great way to help us with those larger miles. It really did help. So when Enterprise cars turned up, we drove to Enterprise to do the paperwork. Then we went to the post office in Port Royal for Dodger for a mail pickup, which turned out to be basically olives that somebody had sent her from home, and then Rite Aid for some various bits, and then an outfitter that we all wanted to see. We were staying at a place called Mountain Home Cabin, and having done all this driving around, Mountain Home Cabin is really only about 150 yards from where we came out at that road crossing. It's a hostel owned by a 2012 hiker, Scott Jenkins, really nice fella. We didn't meet his wife, Lisa, but it's owned by the two of them. And it's a very, very clean place. Really is a good place to stay. I can strongly recommend it. And Scott was a very friendly guy. He directed us to an excellent restaurant in Front Royal called Blue Wing Frog. Once more, it's one of those places that seemed a bit odd when we went in, and the proprietress didn't seem terribly friendly, but she had a kind of twinkle in her eye friendliness, and I kind of liked her in a strange way. But the food was terrific. Really, really enjoyed it. And Scott had told us we'd meet another Brit, a guy called James McNamara, and so he said he was there, and we invited him to join us. He was hilariously unprepared for this trip. And so I absolutely took the chance to chat with him when we returned to the hostel. Here is James McNamara. Right, I'm here with a guy called James McNamara, and James is a fellow Brit, so you may need subtitles. And we've got I think he's been a little bit refreshed today, and we met him tonight in this restaurant. James has got an extraordinary story, considering he's only been on the trail for about 5 days. Hi, James, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad.
So you're enjoying this trip so far. Now, so how many years have you been planning this trip?
Yeah, years wouldn't be the right time frame. I pretty much booked it a week last Tuesday.
Right, and what were you expecting?
Well, from the trail, I had literally no idea whatsoever.
Okay.
Which, I had no thoughts, which has been pretty obvious as I've gone on, because it's been eye-opening at every opportunity.
A lot of people come on the trail with lots of different items, and the one that's kind of concerned us a little bit is he's got an axe with him in case he has to fight bears, I believe.
Yeah, I wasn't too confident that the jab cross would take the bear down. So, but no, my theory was I bought everything I needed that I thought I needed in the UK.
Yeah.
Which was pretty much half of Go Outdoors. And then I've flown over to here and I've gone to resupply in Washington. So I've gone to buy a knife, but I've seen that an axe was the same amount of money as a knife. So I thought, well, I'm getting more bang for my buck here. They're both $30. And I thought in a stand-up fight, I'm going to have a better chance.
And how many changes of clothes did you have?
5.
Which, of course, you really don't need, by the way.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
And your pack was it over £50
yeah,
or something?
Yeah, £50 without food and water.
Right. So, as you can imagine, he hasn't made quite the progress perhaps he was expecting. But you started at Harpers Ferry.
Correct, yes.
And you've headed south.
Yes.
And you're now here in...
Front Royal.
Front Royal, okay. Yeah. At least you know where you are, which is a good thing.
Although, admittedly, I did get a shuttle for the last 8 mile of that trip, so I haven't even made it that far.
and someone suggested that he could take a shuttle down because you want to see McAfee Knob, don't you? That's what you wrote.
I want to sit on McAfee's Knob.
Right,
that's
okay.
the sole purpose for this trip.
Right. So he wants to do that. So someone suggested he could get a shuttle down, but he's now been persuaded to take a 5-hour coach trip tomorrow.
God knows why, but yes.
Yes. So he'll be there. And but check this out. I know you've enjoyed it so far because we've had a laugh tonight anyway, obviously.
Very much so.
So what is it about the trail that you've enjoyed so far?
100%, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the scenery is wonderful. The walks are beautiful, but it's the people. 100%. And I mean, I started at Harpers Ferry heading south, and I'm meeting all these wonderful people, but I briefly meet them. So this is why I've decided to now...
Because you stop and speak to everybody, don't you?
I thought that was etiquette. Yeah, it took me an hour to do my first 300 yards. Harpers Ferry's a busy place. Half of them weren't even hiking. They were people that lived there. But what I've now decided to do, now that I'm learning as I'm going, I'm going to head south. Yeah. And then I'm going to try and I'm going to head north. Because then the people I meet... hopefully will stick around, or maybe they won't. I don't know. Could say more about my personality than I really want to know. But to answer your question, it's the people.
And it was the thing he said that really struck me, and why I really wanted to talk to you was that he got stuck. He was on the roller coaster. He got injured. He hurt his back, and he stayed a day in one of the shelters, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
And people were just helpful to you, weren't they?
Oh, 100%. We got to, I think it's called Rod's Hollow.
That's right.
I got there, and we camped there the evening, and I decided to take a rest day the next day, which I had to. I couldn't even put my socks on in the morning. So, yeah, that was decided for me. So I just, literally, everybody had left to go out for the day. I walked up, set up my tent, my hammock, one of my 3 beds, my pillows, my duvet, 2 of the sleeping bags.
He's only, by the way, he's only partly joking. He did actually come with a tent and a hammock.
And a hammock, and a mattress, and a sleeping bag, and 5 changes of clothes. The only thing I didn't bring a lot of was food and water, which actually led to my downfall, because when I was laid up at Rod's Hollow, like I said, I moved all my stuff up, set up camp up there. I realised I was going to run out of food over the next couple of days if my back didn't get better. And everybody that came in, like, how are you doing? What's your story? I've hurt my back. I'm every day. Have you got enough food? Have you got enough water? Is there anything to do for you? Every single person. And even when I was insistent, I'm fine. They take a couple of Nutrigrain bars. People I've never met before. And that is really what struck me. Even when I was walking here yesterday, then just people I met on the trail, like, how you doing? I think everyone.
It is friendly. So now I know your plan wasn't to through hike the whole Appalachian Trail, but now you've seen some of it, and I'm not saying you would necessarily do it, but can you see the attraction of why people want to do it?
Oh, 100%, definitely. Yeah, I could. I mean, I've only been saying I've stayed in hostels 2 or 3 nights and stayed on the trail 2 or 3 nights, but you see people coming in. And then it'd be like, oh, hey, how you doing? And then they've known people. And sometimes I haven't seen those people for 3 months, sometimes 3 days. Yeah. And everyone, they just click. Everyone sits around, and like everyone eats together as well. It's almost like a family. And,
it's exactly what it's like. And I'm glad you've had some exposure to that, because this could have been an utter disaster, couldn't it?
I think if it hadn't been...
The amount of stuff you've bought with you, yeah.
Yeah, I met a guy called Machine, and he was out with his daughter, Easy Pass, and if I hadn't have met them, I'd still be wandering around foraging for nuts and berries with a £50 bag. Probably where did they find the body? He was only 300 yards from the ATC headquarters at Harpers Ferry. So, I found in my limited experience so far, from what I've seen of it, it's been incredible. And I think that with your help and the colleagues that you're with, getting my pack down to the correct weight, heading south, walking north, I think it's going to completely change it. But it's my own fault. I didn't research the trip at all. I literally booked it, packed a bag, and was here within 5 or 6 days. So.
Yeah. And the people on the show know that I'm not a big planner, but trust me, I'm a far bigger planner than this man. It was so funny. I'll tell you, we have had such a laugh meeting you tonight. We've thoroughly enjoyed it, and we, for whatever brief time you're going to be on the trail, I hope you enjoy it. He's heading down to McCavish now. He's going to see the amazing sight. He'll have the picture there, and he's just getting a taste of the trail. And I think just getting a taste of the trail is worth doing, just to come and see what this place is like.
100%. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but it's completely exceeded any expectations I had. It's been
buddy. Well, I'm pleased to meet you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip. and in any minute now, Dodger is about to do a shakedown of your pack, so you're going to have virtually nothing there left. The axe is definitely going, though.
Yeah, I've got some stuff to hide if she's going up there.
Thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Day 86, US Route 522 Front Royal, mile 971.5 to Ashby Gap, mile 991.2 and 19.7 mile day. As I mentioned before, with this plan of Cushy and Dodger dropped Trigger and I at the AT road crossing before driving north to Ashby Gap, where Trigger and I were going to retrieve the car and return to pick Cushy and Dodger Dog up. And so we were heading north while the girls were heading south towards us. The plan was to give the keys, and obviously that's what happened. And so, we had the whole thing worked out. The terrain was fairly rocky from time to time. And even though there were a few climbs, I just no longer dread them and just get on with them. I think I've told you before, my mantra's kind of become, and it was certainly in the first hike, and certainly when I went out with the fat guys and gals back in the woods when I was speaking with my friend Jack. I said, there's no mountain we haven't got over, and that still remains true. I mean, I can't go above certain elevations, but on the Appalachian Trail, there's never been a mountain I couldn't get over, and that's my mantra. I can get over any mountain. So anyway, Trigger and I started off really, really well, and I could tell we were moving well, and I estimated that we'd meet the girls after about 11 miles. And the reason I said this, we started about half an hour before them, obviously, so that gave us a slight advantage. But I knew that Cushy would be meeting northbounders on her way south, and she cannot resist talking with them. In some cases, as long as 15 or 20 minutes. Nothing wrong with that, of course. It does tend to slow the hike a bit, though. So I guess we'd meet them about 11 miles. Guess when we met them? 11.3 miles. She clearly spent even longer chatting with the northbounders than I'd imagined. But, she was happy with it, and so we were happy with it as well. I've always been concerned that she's getting slightly disconnected from the trail because she's going away and then coming back. I mean, I left the trail myself in 2014, so I know how you can get kind of disconnected from it. And but she was very happy. She'd met everybody and talked to everybody, and so that was great. Anyway, they gave us the keys, and Trigger and I really sped up, and we had a great walk through some fields near the end. And there were a couple of day hikers out there who we passed, and one of them seemed quite determined to keep up with us. So I think the faster she walked to keep up with us, the faster we carried on going as well. And we knew we'd been fast, but when we arrived back in Front Royal, having driven the 30 minutes back, Cushy and Dodger Dog were still about 4 miles out. So Trigger and I did what any man would do. We headed into town and had a beer at a brewery. And we met a guy I hadn't seen for some time, probably, 500 miles, Coco, another British guy at the bar. You often meet British people at bars these days. And because we had the car, of course, and this was something we'd planned some time before, Cushy had a family friend, or as she called her aunt, Clara, Clara, where, and I'd actually had my boots sent to me from Oboz, which I explained earlier, to Clara's house. So they were there for me, which was great. So we went to this house in a place called Strasburg, Virginia. It was about a 35-minute drive, 40-minute drive. And Clara, who was a lady in her early 80s, I believe, early to mid-80s, I think, she runs the whole house by herself. She did beautiful home-cooked meal with meatloaf and all sorts of proper vegetables and proper home cooking. It was absolutely magnificent. And she had the most beautiful, beautiful farm with this elevated position overlooking a valley and overlooking the mountains in the distance. It was glorious. And I had to pull out bed, and Trigger slept on the floor, and the girls shared a bed. So we were very, very comfortable there. And it was a great end to a lovely day. So that was the end of day number 86. So that's where we're going to finish this episode. I'm trying to keep episodes to around 30 minutes to allow for a normal commute or a jog or something like that. Just one more thing though. While I know that slack packing isn't everybody's idea of hiking, it certainly appeals to me from time to time, and it definitely did on my trip in 2014. With Cushy getting a car, our days have sometimes been a little easier, though every mile has been hiked and every blaze has been passed, and frankly, even though I'm carrying a lighter pack, my pack generally now with 4 days of food and water is only 27 pounds, and it feels as light as a feather on me anyway. I mean, I could carry the whole pack, but frankly, if I don't need it for that day, if I'm taking my pack out and I don't need anything else in it, why would I take more? So I'm perfectly happy with it myself. Now, as I say, this is just the first part of the week, and with a bit of luck, I'm going to have another episode in your ears in a few hours' time. So instead of saying I'll see you next time, I'll see you soon.